Hey everyone, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining. Looks like a pretty good turnout online as well as in person today. This is the pre-submittal meeting for let me get this right, the Digital Signage Integrator Services request for qualifications. May 7th, 2025, 2 p.m. Let me see, I got one more person in here. So we switched up a little bit with this meeting. Normally we do an in-person only over at the boardroom. We're doing at the admin lobby conference room. We're also, of course, doing this one digitally so we can get a little bit better turnout. With that, we are recording the Microsoft Teams meeting.
You have somebody else that just popped in.
Okay. Let's get everybody. Okay. All right. We are recording this meeting. So with that, I do have a recorded statement up on the screen. If anyone has any questions on that, we disclose this statement to every recorded Teams meeting. It's a requirement. So just let us know if you have any questions. With that, let's do like a round of introductions in the room so everybody's familiar with who all is attending. And then we'll go through the agenda. I'll pull that up and I'll run through it, and then I'll pass off to you for kind of the last piece, which is that scope section. So starting with myself, my name's Corey, project manager for the Punta Gorda Airport, helping Kaylee and the rest of the team with creating the solicitation for this. I think with a lot of this, will be some hand-in-hand work between our departments of getting you guys in there to do the integration. So I think they'll probably see a little bit of both of us, the selected firm. So Kaylee, if you want.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kaylee Miller, the Chief Marketing Officer, and appreciate everybody working together on this and everybody attending. And like Corey said, he's really good at these RFQ things, and I'm not so great. So thank you for your patience.
I think I have a colleague who's in the waiting room, but I don't know.
So we're just making sure everyone's accepted into the waiting room.
So usually it'll have kind of up at the top, it'll have an admit button for somebody who's not part of it.
Yeah, it looks like they're
everybody who I have shown as in this meeting, they've all been accepted. So.
Okay, no worries. Okay. I'm here.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on this and invite everybody who I guess. But
all right. Did everybody?
Yeah, if y'all could introduce yourselves, and we'll just kind of do around the room.
My name is Bruce Amberger. I'm a construction administrator with Matter Professional Engineering.
Ray LaRoche, I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at PGD.
Hi, Dave McKeever. I'm a Sales, Business Development, and Account Management Director for Collins Aerospace.
Hi, Steve Moody, Director of Business Development for Infax.
Hi, this is Colleen Hamilton, a principal at Art of Context.
This is where it gets a little fun. I'd like to do an introduction of everybody online.
You can just recall them out, Corey.
Sure,
Yeah, so,
this is good.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is JB McCarthy. I'm with International Display Systems.
Okay, let's do Rachel next. I'll just do from left to right, top screen.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
You're perfect. You were actually the first person.
Hi, this is Rachel Warner. I'm a proposal writer at Birdie Services Incorporated.
Okay. Erica Shea.
Hi, my name is Erica Shea. I'm the Business Development Director for Matern Professional Engineering.
Let's see. Michael. Yep, Michael.
Yeah, Bynes, yep. I'm Mike Bynes here. Yeah, I work for a company called Creative Realities, and my role is a VP of Sales for IPTV and digital signage at CRI. Thanks.
Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Gentry. I'm Marketing Manager for Matern Professional Engineering.
Okay, Martin?
Martin Lewis, Senior Account Manager for AVI SPL.
Okay, thank you. Jessica?
Hello, my name is Jessica Norris. I'm the Commercial Sign Sales Rep for Monarch Direct.
Greg? Yep.
Hi, I'm Greg Sinkyu. I'm Director of Business Development for International Display Systems. Hi, Bruce Peterson. I'm the Director of Opportunity Management with Synect.
Hi, I'm John Finelli with Hughes Network Systems.
Troy Waltz, work with Michael at CRI.
Jason Brown, if you could, introduction.
Sure. Jason Brown with Digisplay. I'm Solutions Architect and Business Development.
Hi, my name is Brandy Bailey. I am the Senior Proposal Manager with Synect.
Hi, John Hose. Oh, hi, John Hose. I'm the President and Sales Engineer for I2 Visual.
And then second to last, we got Tim.
You're muted, Tim.
See, it looks like his email is Art of Context. Art of Context, yes. Okay, so we've got Tim, and then Monty, if you want to finish this off.
Monty Feely, Head of Strategic Engagement for Synect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Again, everyone, thank you all for joining. Again, this is a Digital Signage Integrator Services project. We do have, let me see if I can find it, a meeting agenda. Pass this out physically to everybody in the room. We'll have this pulled up, and then we'll also be including this with some agenda minutes on DemandStar. And then if anybody wants to request them, if you're not part of DemandStar, we can of course send those out to you individually via email. Just shoot us a quick email and we'll get those out to you. We've got the sign-in sheet passed around. I also took some snapshots of the everybody on Teams. I also have a recording, so I can go back and look at those if I need to. So the next order of business is kind of just a brief project description. The snippet you see on the screen here is really, it's the part of the advertisement page. It's literally the same language. So I'm not going to read it word for word, but essentially what we're trying to do is modernize and replace existing signage FIDS displays, as well as add new signage displays to future expansion. So we're going to be starting a terminal expansion of our existing commercial terminal, as well as we're wrapping up a new rental car facility. So those are a couple of the new facilities that will need new signage and displays. So it's not just the signage, it's also the kind of the servers, I guess you would call it, the servers, the background equipment, the graphics processors, that sort of stuff. So it's really just the full package. Needs to integrate with whatever we're keeping, and it needs to be user friendly, something that we can go in and we can, change. If it's an advertisement, we can have somebody go in there and change the advertisement.
Lori?
Yes.
Can I ask a question, or you want me to wait till later?
Let's try and wait on questions probably till the end. Yeah, if we could. Appreciate it. So the next order of business is just kind of a brief schedule of the solicitation. So of course we advertise this. We publish it on April 28th. Our question deadline is going to be the 23rd of this month. So we've got about 2 weeks left for any questions. We've got just a few in, and I think we've answered them so far. A big one that came up was the can you have kind of subs working under you? Mm-hmm. And the answer to that is yes, you can have subs working under you. It doesn't need to be your company. We just need one point of contact to hold the contract with, and to kind of go through this process of figuring out what we need and where we need it. With that, will give us a pretty quick turnaround for the final addendum. I don't foresee any crazy questions on this one. So May 27th for the final addendum, probably by close of business. And the submittal due date, June 4th at 2:00. So you can either mail those in. That's going to be using 28,000 A1 Airport Road. And I strongly suggest you give us a call ahead of time or give us an email, preferably email, just letting us know that you've shipped it out. If you can provide us with like a tracking number or something like that too, that would be great, because that address 28,000 A1, that is for the entire airport. So sometimes the shipping companies, they don't know where to bring it to. They're usually pretty good, but sometimes this will end up over at maintenance, or it'll end up with Allegiant or something like that. So we want to make sure if we can track it down if you submitted something and it hasn't gotten to the right place. Otherwise, hand delivering is always probably the best way to do it. That's going to be at this building here that we're in today, 8079 Golf Course Boulevard. That takes care of that. I have a section in here for oral presentations and interviews of shortlisted firms. It's unlikely that we'll do that, but if we have to, if there's like a close tie or something and we want the board to make the final selection based off of an interview, we might choose to do that. So we always leave that in there in case we need. So the next section is the instruction to respondents for the submission. We just want to make sure that we have one unbound original of your submission so that we can make copies of it if we need to. 3 bound copies for grading, that's pretty important. And then the electronic PDF is so that we don't have to make copies of the unbound original if we need to. Tab section is pretty important, help us flip through it. 20-page limit, that always comes up. They always ask, is that single-sided, double-sided? So 20-page double-sided, 40 single-sided limit. We're not super strict on that. We need you to just fall within that range. If you're a couple pages off, I wouldn't worry about it. But the intent of that is so that we don't get a 300-page proposal and then you have to grade that, and it's very difficult to do when you got 10 of those. Just go through the RFQ solicitation documents. They go over insurance requirements. They go over a couple of other instructions for the respondent. If you guys have any other questions on that, just feel free to reach out to us. It's pretty standard stuff. We put in everything we publish out here. So with that, we'll get to the evaluation selection criteria. So we've broken this part into 2 sections. So the first section we kind of have as what do we want you to submit in your package tabbed as basically, I think it's like 10 required sections. So I've got those listed out. Just kind of breaks down really a little bit of, your firm company's history, who you guys are, how are you guys going to approach this project, what are you going to do to accomplish the goals that we've stated in the scope of services, what kind of is your timeline, how would you foresee important tasks and milestones along the way of getting those items accomplished, with emphasis on minimizing commercial service impacts. We want the terminal to operate freely and seamlessly throughout this integration process as much as possible. The cost structure is, we're not looking for a fee, an outright fee. What we would like to see are some cost information on like the people who would be underneath you, maybe some past examples of work that you've completed and kind of budgetary information as to what that entailed. Let's see. Case studies is like your references. So it's like 3 previous projects that you guys have done, just so that we can see that you have a previous experience doing that work. References were basically references from any airports or any other public service entities, preferably who you've done work for. Just give us some reference information. Appendices is just backup documentation that you want to provide with us, specifications and stuff like that. And then the required forms, I think we only have like 4 or 5 in here that are required for state and federal projects, state and federally required for these projects. So then the second point of this is going to be the evaluation grading side. So we've broken it out into 5 pretty straightforward sections. So your technical approach and innovation, 30 points, experience and qualifications, 25. Project management and timeline, 25, sustainability and compliance, 15, and quality and responsiveness, 5, for a total of 100 points. Next section, required forms. So just submit all the forms required. They do need to be completed. If they aren't, usually we can go back after the fact and say, hey, we noticed that this form was missing. Could you please provide that to us? But that also goes into the quality and responsiveness section. So there is value to having all those forms there, having them all completed properly and submitted to us at the time of opening. Contract provisions, because we are a federally funded commercial service airport, we have certain requirements that we have to hit on all of our solicitations, regardless of how they are funded. So the FAA makes us put in a contract provision for civil rights. So we put that in there. please review that. We have from FDOT a couple of items. Public entity crimes, discrimination, those are just a couple of the sections that are in there. Those will be part of the contract. So whoever we go into contract with, that will be a material part of the contract when we get to that point. So that kind of summarizes the RFQ, kind of a little bit of the background information of it. Next, we'll kind of get more into like the scope of work, get into a little bit more detail as to really what are we looking for here. And with that, I'll pass that off to Kaylee, and then we'll probably just jump back and forth as we have information. Ray too will probably get in there. And I've got a couple of other things I can pull up on the screen to kind of give you a bit of more visual what's going on. So Kaylee, if you want to.
Yes. So one of the things Corey just covered was cost structure. And we know, like Corey said, this is not a price that you're giving us, but he wants to understand basically what your consulting fees generally are. Now, hardware and software costs, you're not going to know that all those answers up front, of course, but generally, how do you figure out what those costs are going to be? Is it a formula? Is it a certain, supplier that you use? Things like that. Generally, integration costs, installation and things like that. What do you generally charge for those types of things? So even though
I think we lost you. I think we lost you there, Kaylee.
There you go.
I'm not sure. So basically what I was talking about was the cost structure part of the submission, which basically want to get a better understanding of your consulting fees, what you charge. And like I was saying, hardware and software costs aren't going to be exact, of course, but we want to get a better understanding of how you acquire hardware and software. If you have any, partnerships with suppliers, of course, and as Corey mentioned, kind of subs and or, the partners that you might work with or might recommend working with. You can include that in your submittal as well, because we know that the integrator doesn't have all of the, pieces under their direct control, but the idea is that this integrator will be managing all of it for us. And that's the hope. So the scope of work is on, is the next section after the.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get us there. So
I'm not sure exactly. Corey's going to go to it. So the digital signage system is kind of the general, what we're talking about overall. We need an integrator to design, plan, and oversee the implementation of a phased approach to replace and enhance PGD's advertising, wayfinding, and FIDs. We project it'll span up to 4 years with all these different phases, and we can talk a little bit more about that as well. So that's why we're thinking it'll take up to 4 years to get through this whole process. Then we look at the objectives are obviously to modernize our system. We have outdated signage. Some of it actually really needs to be replaced. Some of it we can keep as we replace it. It's not as urgent to be replaced, but eventually, we want everything to be replaced. We want to enhance the passenger experience, improve wayfinding and access to real-time flight information for seamless navigation. The idea is to have dynamic displays that can be configured to display multiple streams. So one giant screen may have advertising on 3/4 of it and 1/4 of it's dedicated to FIDs, for example. Depending on what's going on at the airport at the time, we want that screen to be able to be split and modified to show different things depending on operational needs and or advertising. So the system has to be able to accommodate different feeds, different APIs, different CMS, a general CMS system that's easy to use, hopefully, as well as all the IDs. So as part of this, advertising is a kind of a big piece of it. We have contracted with Lamar Airport Advertising from 2015 to 2025. So their contract is ending December 31st, 2025. So we are taking the advertising in-house and are starting that transition process as we hire a new person to come on board and help us with that transition and take over the sales. So when we get to the work area phase, I'll talk a little bit more about that timing, but that's a big piece of it. And we need to have the right advertising ad server that works well with the signage system and allows us to track proof of play, allows us to change out advertising, and, you know, really works well with the system. Of course, scalability is important because if we're having this over a 4-year period, you know, we want to make sure that what we install first in the rental car center is scalable to the existing terminal and the renovation of the terminal and the expansion of the terminal, and that the decisions we make at the beginning of this process will be scalable throughout the process when the new terminal is completed, hopefully by the end of 2027, and the renovation's complete by the end of 2027. So employee engagement, that's another piece of it that is just kind of a side note. It's not the most important part of this, of course, but the CMS that we're using, we want to be able to integrate into other facilities, kind of one-offs where it can show employee messaging. So it's not a huge part of it, but it is part of one of our objectives is that employee engagement part for break rooms basically and lobbies of some of the other facilities. So if we go to the work area phases on the next page.
I can touch in this part a little bit.
Okay, yeah, you know about the timing better.
Yeah, so the language is a little bit weird on this, so I kind of want to explain it better, I think verbally than how it's written. Essentially, we're going to have we show 3 phases, 3 work areas. We're probably going to have 4 because there's kind of a phase 2 we have as the existing terminal space. There's really kind of 2 elements to that we'll get into. So we've got 4 work areas. They're all going to happen at different times throughout the year, throughout different years. And in each of those, basically what we want to do is we want to bring somebody on board who's going to design a layout, get us basically like a performance specification or something like that as far as what equipment we'll be bringing into those areas. And we'll have a scope for that. So that would be a scope of work. Then the second phase of that scope of work would be kind of, now we have a quote, now we know how much it's going to cost, where we're going to put everything. We've got to take that to the board more than likely and get approval from our board to pay for that and to install it and integrate it into the system. So if you can imagine, we'll basically have 8 different scopes of work potentially because of how we're doing this. We want to phase it. We want to do piece by piece because it's not all happening at once. Otherwise, we could just do 2 scopes of work. We just do scope 1, design it for us, the whole thing. Scope 2 would be integrate it and install it. So we do have to kind of do a little bit piecemeal. And that's kind of what I was trying to put together in the scope of work section. You have these work areas, and then in each of these work areas, you have basically 2 scopes of work. The design side and then the construction side, more or less. So we're going to be probably updating this. Right now, we do have 3 work areas shown, and we have certain timelines, rough estimates in there. Once we select the firm that we're going to go with, of course, we'll tighten up on this. This will be kind of part of that process of going through the design and going through that initial first scope of work is figuring out when things need to happen. But for this, we're basically going to be looking at really 4 work areas. So phase 1 is going to be the new rental car center. We're looking at completion of that project somewhere in July of this year. So it's pretty critical that it says year 1. It really means as soon as absolutely possible. We need to try and have the display system set up as soon as we can. Yeah. The next phase, which would be phase 2, would be the existing terminal space, which would be somewhere around January 2026, we'd be looking at. That's basically the terminal space that isn't going to be impacted by our future terminal expansion project, which we'll get into. That's phase 3 and phase 4. So phase 3 is going to be the terminal expansion space. And I have, let me see, this is, I've got a virtual reality kind of view of what our terminal will look like in the future. So the majority of the expanded space is really this linear concourse here. Everything from about this point on to this side, that's all expansion. Everything from that side backwards is renovation. And everything you can physically see through the roof of our terminal, that's all part of the project. So this side south is going to be renovation work, and this side north is going to be expansion. So the phase 3, the terminal expansion, we're looking at completing that hopefully November 2026. Construction doesn't always work out the way we want it to. I always tell everybody add a couple months to that because inevitably something's going to happen, and that's just what it is. So it's a good target deadline, but we would phase 3 work. We would go through that with the selected firm. We get a more solidified schedule with that, and then we go from there. So phase 3 is the expansion side. That's all of this stuff out here. Now phase 4 is the renovation side to the south. That's everything else you see here that's exposed. Okay. So phase 4 renovation, that isn't going to be completed until around May 2027. Okay. So we'd be looking at from basically as soon as absolutely possible to May, middle of 2027, maybe end of 2027, somewhere in there.
So just to clarify too, I tried to make it easier for y'all to visualize besides this great tool for phase 1, the new rental car center, which we really want to get some screens up ASAP. Y'all can see on the exhibit that I have the layout of the rental car center, the architectural layout, as well as some photos of it under construction, and a little spreadsheet which tells you the 4 areas where I think we need a digital screen, and 3 in the lobby and 1 in the break room. So we tried to make it easy for y'all to envision. The most important thing that we need first is this right here that Corey has. These four screens. I don't know how big they should be, if they should be LED or LCD. That's the type of thing we need your help with. And this is the first one to go live. So this one needs to have a FIDS, because as people are dropping off the rental car, picking up the rental car, they need to know, hey, am I going to miss my flight? Or when is my mom coming in? I'm going to go pick her up. So the FIDS, this needs to have primarily advertising, but secondary is the FIDS. So this first piece, hopefully it'll be easy for you to visualize because I have, like I said, the layout and some photos and the spreadsheet. Now the phase 2, the most important thing about this going live, this is also in the exhibit, is January 2026 is when we take over the advertising. Lamar is done. We need to have these areas with screens ready to go by January, ready to be installed on January 1-ish. Well, that's New Year's.
Do you own the screens or does one?
No, the ones that they own right now, you can see in this exhibit, are small, like 60-inch portrait hung screens that are at the end of their life cycle, end of their life cycle, end of their life cycle now. So if you see on the spreadsheet, this has like the code to where the main they need to be. They only have 7 right now, 7 screens. So what I'm recommending or hoping to get and be installed and integrated and up and running by January 1 is the area where it says T1, which is the area above the ticket counter. Those screens we actually own right now, but I think we could do something much more nice and impactful up there. So you can see that in the exhibit. That's T1. T2 shows a picture of their, you can't really see it too well, but is a picture of their screen, Lamar's screen, which we're going to get rid of, which is on the west facing wall in the ticketing area, which is like that over there where it says T2. That's Lamar's only screen right now. So that we want to replace that. So in ticketing right here, this is what we want to focus on for January 1. So you go to
is power and data provided for, I guess the existing locations, we have power and communications infrastructure.
Correct. Yes, The expanded spots will have power and data drops accessible from, I think we said like 25 or 50 feet from the ceiling grid.
And these have power and data already in the existing term. So this is ticketing. So it's not too crazy. Hopefully this helps you envision it. So then we go to bag claim, which is the next couple slides. This shows that's still ticketing. So the next one is the bag claim area. See, Lamar's screens are this green one to the left of the plant, and there's another one over there to the left of the plant. And then there's a third one that's over by the bathrooms. Those are gonna go away. That little map right there, that's our screen that we own. That we own that screen, but that's probably at the end of its life too and can go somewhere else. So what I have here is B1, B2 on this slide, which shows the back wall behind the baggage belt. So this is just to give you an idea of what we want, something there, something bigger, something impactful that's going to show advertising. So that when these passengers are waiting for their bags, they see some great large advertising that's going to get their attention and be like awesome. That's our hope. Yes.
You mentioned FIDS. Is part of the scope to provide a brand new FID system?
So we are talking and exploring FIDS options right now. We're looking at a vendor that can produce or supply a web-based common use system as well, and gate management system that would also include FIDS. Is that correct? But we don't have that vendor signed up yet. But the idea is that vendor would have
You've already made a selection in that area?
common use.
No.
Is there an RFQ that you're going to be submitted or releasing or?
No, we're either going to stay with the one we have, or we're going to use a cooperative purchase agreement to procure a new one.
Cooperative.
Omnia Partners.
Okay.
So if it basically whatever this new system would need to integrate with through an API or a web-based system, if we keep the one we have or go with a new one.
Okay.
So this over here on B3 is over by the bathrooms. There's two screens there, one we own, one Lamar owns. We want something big there that will show advertising and FIDS. So this is an example of one of those split screens that passengers can check FIDS, but they can also see an ad. Then over the next one we have in baggage claim is B4, which is over a new area by the exit doors that we want like a large, probably 90-inch screen that will mainly show advertising. So that covers the baggage claim area. Then in the hold areas, we have G1, G3, and G6 named after the existing gates, gate 1, gate 3, gate 6. That's why they're named that. Right now, there's just a Lamar screen that, sorry, is not visible on this. It might be, let's see if it's on the next slide, if you can see it. You can see them here. Lamar has one and we have one. Same thing. We want this to be replaced by one larger screen that can show a combination of advertising and FIDS. Same thing with a G3 and G6. There's two screens next to each other, one Lamar's, one ours. We want to have it replaced by a larger screen that shows FIDS and advertising. So this is just to give you an idea of the things that we need pretty quickly right away. All these other things in terms of expansion and renovation, we'll have more time to plan that out,
right?
And develop the most exciting things that we can come up with on a budget. That makes sense.
And when you say FIDS will be provided by potentially a different vendor, are you talking about just the FIDS data and you'd want the digital signage vendor to sort of design it and integrate it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the digital, exactly. So the digital signage CMS or whatever that is will take the API from the FIDS and display it in a nice, attractive manner.
Gotcha.
And then the vendor that provides the common use in the FIDS and GIDS primarily will probably provide some screens
That would, yes.
that are just gate specific only.
So the the signage that's directly above like a gate
door
would be just FIDS.
Because you have gate messaging happening there.
Right. And then same in baggage, the stuff over the bag belt itself would be just displaying bids. Where you would take the API and integrate it would be in the combination advertising and
would you be open to using an API for all of it? Because sometimes gate design might include destination images or just kind of a high design.
In the new terminal and in the when we renovate, there'll be some opportunities in that virtual. Can you open that virtual thing again, Corey? There's some screens that we have in our virtual, which are like portrait style. We call them like blades. So that this one has an example. See that right there? It's gate 6, but that image could be an ad. So this would fall under this integrator to help us with those types of things that are combination use. Same thing as when you come out of the screening area, once it's renovated and you put on your, the recombobulation area where you put your shoes back on. We're going to want some big FID screens there. But there might be some of the big, at some airports are giant, they call them the bank, the flight bank, right? Ours might be FIDs and a combination of advertising and FIDs and wayfinding. So the other piece of this is the new terminal is going to add a significant space and gates. It's still not a giant terminal that you need excessive wayfinding, but we do want to utilize this signage to show people where we want them to go spend money, because we do want them to spend money, obviously, at the airport. So wayfinding is a part of it. We also like the wayfinding part of it. So for example, could be a digital screen right up there that might say this way to Dunkin' Donuts. It might say other things that are messaging related to operations, who knows? Or it could have destination advertising, like you said. We want a lot of these or several of these screens to be able to do both or to do multiple things, basically, to have the option.
Right.
And we were going to utilize some static signage, of course, because what if there is a power outage and the backup generator doesn't come on right away. But at the same time, we want a lot of the new digital signage to have the wayfinding capability.
If you think about and this is I guess probably the biggest example I know of would be the new checkpoint at Nashville Airport. That screen that has a scene playing on it.
Right.
FIDS information. I mean, that's our guy. That's
well done here.
That's kind of where we got the idea from, I would say. So it can literally
You got the same budget? Because that'd be great.
I don't have a wall that big either here, even with the expansion. But that type of display, not the size. I wish I could have that. I'd like to wrap the whole tower in signage, but just that kind of idea of how we can hopefully move into the future and not have the same static dust collecting signs on the wall.
Right. Yeah.
Or giant
or the
TVs that have been repurposed for advertising.
And as you look at this in the 1-story terminal, the ceilings at the highest might be 14 feet tall, right? So there may not be a lot of use for LED screens. Maybe most of them are LCD, but that's where we need the expertise of this integrator to say, this is your pitch and your pixel and back up this far. And that's where your expertise will come in handy, because we don't know all those details and we don't know, we need your help to evaluate that, basically. Let me see if I have anything else. I don't really have anything else. I guess, do you have anything, or we can start taking questions?
Yeah, we can start taking questions.
Are the images just showed from the model?
That is from the model.
Do you have any screenshots that are in an exhibit for that? Just because I'm not in my taking screenshots.
Oh no, you can
go into this. Yeah, I think we provided this link.
He put it at the end of the exhibit. There's a link. So open up the PDF and go to the end of the exhibit, and you can find that.
That's like a planning level. I mean, it's pretty close to where we're dropping power and data and all of that, but there's still room for
subject to change.
Things to change there if there's better options. I mean, you can probably tell by the RFQ, we don't know what we're doing with a lot of this stuff. So we're just really looking for a lot of guidance.
And this shows, this is great to visualize. Those of y'all that have worked in airports before, where the heaviest passenger traffic is, where it's going to make the most sense to invest in a large screen that's going to get people's attention. And then farther down at the ends, maybe we don't invest in the most expensive screens down there.
Right.
Maybe it's less expensive screens, or maybe it's just static advertising down there because it's not, or maybe that's down the road, we'll do that. So with your expertise, you can kind of help explain your background in maximizing screens at a cost-effective manner. Because we're a small airport, projected 2.2 million passengers probably this year. We don't have, unfortunately, Nashville's money. But we would love to get as much as we can and create a great passenger experience.
No, we don't.
Nashville taste on a
Taste on a PPD budget. We would love that.
And assume you're going to be bringing in additional airlines with this extension.
Yes, this is our hope. Airlines, it's obviously competitive because we have RSW, Fort Myers Airport, and Sarasota Airport, and Tampa not far away. So we do have a lot of competition, but Allegiant is a strong partner. Sun Country's a seasonal partner, and we're always seeking additional airlines to come in as well. And part of this kind of sell to airlines is, with our new systems, they can have instant branding through these nice new screens, as well as the gate screens. So this is a great thing for airline recruitment as well, to be able to show that they can quickly set up their gate and configure it to their needs quickly and easily, and that we can support their routes by advertising their destinations for them. Did you have a question?
I did. So this is labeled as an RFQ, and I think you may have answered it, but is the intent to shortlist a couple of vendors to then have further discussion with them, then you have an RFP, or are you looking to make a final decision on a tentative vendor and then refine the actual contract and how it's going?
No, yeah. So it'll be completely based off the qualifications, and then try to rank them, and then go through and try to come to an agreement with whoever's number one, and work that out. If it doesn't work out, then we go to number two.
So you only want to select one?
Yes,
right now.
one, basically a prime. I so far we haven't been able, if we had, we'd probably go a different route with this, but I haven't been able to find one person that does it all. So that was kind of the challenge that we ran into in trying to bring this all in-house, is finding, everybody seems to have a different piece of the puzzle, and we don't know what all the pieces of the puzzle are, so we need somebody to put that together for us, which is what we're looking for.
So this chosen vendor, you're the quote integrator, are you precluded for bidding some of your own systems that could provide the capabilities that are outlined in the scope?
Nope.
Okay.
What kind of construction, within the construction scope, is there, and I understand the consulting, but like, if you're helping identify specific, maybe displays or LEDs for some location, is it also in our scope to, do engineering and design and have drawings stamped and get approvals and permits and all of that for any new displays, or is that kind of construction scope provided by others?
It would be a turnkey system from your team. Yeah.
So there is significant
permitting required. It's screens. I don't think
there would be permitting required for interior
seals.
You mentioned you already pull cable and electrical.
Yeah,
That's all in existence.
Could be engineering issues though.
There could be.
Okay, the engineering, if you get into any kind of LEDs, if you're just thinking it's all going to be flat panel type displays, no, you can do that internally. But if you get into hanging LEDs or any type of larger displays in any locations, you've got engineering and sometimes permitting and drawings to get approved.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So yes, I would agree with what you just said.
Okay.
But also think about, they're in the recombobulation area, for example, that FIDS wall could be a monument standing screen that has screens on both sides of it that has a structure. So some of these screens may be inside of a structure, and in that respect, yes, there would be some engineering required because the structure is holding up the screen. Yeah.
Another good point is our exterior signs that we have like at the entrance, those require permits. So like if we did do exterior signs, like those big monument sign type things.
Yeah, that
That would be an example of.
We don't have any.
Yeah, that would be a, you're right, this integrator could recommend that, but that's not specifically part of the scope. This is just interior for this point, but that's not something we could consider down the road.
Yeah, you're basically like a design build firm. That's basically what we're looking for.
Corey knows the construction world. Sorry, we don't have our IT manager with us.
Is your static wayfinding going to change? Is that a recent program? Just curious if a lot of airports do an uplift on there.
So interior, the existing terminal is small enough where it has basic wayfinding, which is pretty, what do we call it? Adequate.
Yeah, like
adequate at this point.
But a lot because the major, so if you look at where in this rendering here, where the checkpoint is, that's the current gate area, right? So a lot of the wayfinding has to change with the terminal expansion project. So there's, I forget how many, I think it's about half of the existing building that gets remodeled. So really it's only baggage claim that doesn't get touched in ticketing. There's not a lot of wayfinding there to change. So yeah, the majority of it I would say is going to change inside.
And it'll still be the same look and feel in a sign package by someone for the new terminal.
I would say
we're trying to go more digital with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say mostly digital with some static.
Okay.
The static.
Like exits from the new terminal to get out. Exits are, we know we're going to need static so that people know how to get the heck out. That's obviously really important. Restrooms, obviously you're going to have static for that. You know, the basic safety type thing.
The gate numbers over the doors would probably be static, but then
But we don't want to spend, we don't want to spend a lot of money on the gates of the doors in case we decide to change the names or numbers of them.
Which we've had to do a lot over the past 10
We've
years.
expanded and made like 2A and because there's not enough, it's too expensive to change it.
At 11.
3.
Right.
You know, so we'd rather invest in nice digital signage than you know, heavy manufactured signage, basically, that costs more. Any questions from folks on the phone?
I think you pretty much covered everything I had questions on.
So your rental car center is opening in July, you said?
Yes.
And you haven't planned at all for just making sure that there's, so that's a blank slate in terms of.
Right. Power and data is there.
Power and data is there.
Will you have to integrate with Lamar and your current FIDS provider?
Not Lamar, but with the current FIDS provider.
Provider probably. That
you'll just use those two advertising displays for community messages or whatever, customer service message until that goes to the advertising.
Right. So that Lamar will still be showing advertising through December 31st, 2025.
Right.
So what we need to have ready to go is, you know, basically an ad server type CMS program already being tested with advertising messages.
Yeah.
You know, so that January 1, we can hang up those new screens, plug it in and make sure it, you know, hopefully it's already working.
Do you guys prefer a cloud-based system or a box server?
Depends on who you ask. Cloud is probably preferred, but we have to make sure that ESA is okay with it, right? So if we're using a lot of wayfinding in it, ESA can at any point consider that a critical system for the airport now and say that it can't be cloud or have a lot of security features to it.
Got a lot of issues.
And don't some have screens and player capability, but the players have a cache.
Exactly.
Right.
That shows what needs to be shown in case there's an outage. But I could be at home and update the ads
Right.
And they would eventually get here, well, not eventually, hopefully pretty quickly, to the
Like
airport.
courier,
So
yeah.
yes, it would be able to be ideal to make updates via the cloud, but have a backup
Yeah.
system so
Yeah,
that in
they're
case there's.
pretty much open. To answer your question, we don't have a preference, but
Okay.
Right.
that whatever's easiest to use and preferably less expensive.
Who's your current FIDS provider?
iFids, I think.
Heard of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
AeroCloud?
No, I fit.
Is there, hey guys, yeah, is there any desire on so I know that the signage platform is the main ask is one of the main asks, but is there any desire to have integrated IPTV as well to any of the panels?
An integrated, can you say that again?
IPTV.
What is IPTV?
IPTV, so TV streaming over the network. So I mean, we've done installations where, we deploy platforms that do both, right? Digital signage, and it can actually take in your cable satellite feeds as well into the same platform and distribute it to any TV you want at any time.
I think that we could consider that in terms of a partnership with a media partner that wants to sponsor that. So that's not something we want to pay for out of our pocket, but if we could have some screens hanging above the seating area while passengers are waiting and have those screens showing streaming service that somehow is being paid for by an advertiser or a media partner, then that's something we would definitely consider. But we don't have that agreement worked out, but that would be great to have that capability.
Okay. Yeah, and really that can be something that can, I don't know if you guys have a cable provider at all at the airport or satellite, but we can even work with them and have that capability. It's just a feature that in the platform we're probably going to propose. That's always just curious. And a lot of, sorry, I hate to keep bringing in FIDS again, but I mean, would you guys be willing to entertain FIDS proposals with this bid at all, as far as for anyone who that work in the past or anything like that?
I think by the time that this is completed, we're either going to have another long-term agreement with our existing provider or be in a different agreement with a different provider. So I don't think it would have to be after that period of that agreement.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes sense.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And given that sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have one question. So I think you guys just answered that. As far as the software, the software is outside of this scope from that standpoint. What about
as far as FIDS?
As far as
just
FIDS?
the API, the data in the back, not the CSS portion, the style of the look of it. So you would be doing that's what we just talked about earlier today.
It depends on the screen.
Yeah.
It's two different. If it's just a purely FIDS screen only, it's going to display whatever the FIDS provider displays. If it's the advertising with FIDS through the API, that would be something that would need to be able to be
customized.
Right. But when you have no flight on your GID, it's nice to bring in the advertising feed. So typically digital signage software, even if it's pulling in an API, they tend to do all the passenger facing for that very purpose of bringing in data and playlists and it's all managed there and designing out those single purpose just so you can have it when there's no flight event happening. Yeah.
Okay. But the other piece of it is from it sounds like power and data and all that stuff's being outside of the scope carried by the airport, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And that goes for the locations as well. Anywhere that we would want to put the employee messaging, we would have power and data there as well.
Okay, so you guys are carrying all the power and data, and this is truly a design, supplying the displays, installing them, and integrating them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Given you're federally funded, is there any DBE requirements or anything of that nature?
Nope. This project won't be federally funded, so we're fine. We don't have any of those.
The bonding
Did you put?
I think that
We don't have any in
Thank
this because this is to select, this is team. Yeah, so we'd probably go down that road. We might want something. It's really dependent on the cost. Performance and payment bonds and stuff like that. And really it also depends on the level of the construction aspect too.
I have a quick question, mostly around operations. I can totally get behind making sure that you have an effective way to set up the system, install, and then go through the different phases with you. Is the expectation that the vendor also helps with any of the management of the advertising, the employee, messaging over time, or is it trying to set you up so that you can do the operations side?
Yeah, set us up to be able to do it ourselves.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thanks.
Any other questions? Well, like Corey said, my email is kmiller@flypgd is the one that's on the proposal. So all the questions we need to put in writing and respond to in writing, clarifications, like Corey mentioned with the phases and timelines, we'll put that into an addendum as well.
Yep.
And you said May 23rd was the deadline for questions, correct?
May 23rd, yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Should the responses be to anyone's attention if they're mailed instead of hand delivered?
I would say, right, and we can put this in the addendum in front of the address where it's a 28,000 A1, put CCAA, which is Charlotte County Airport Authority, CCAA admin. And then there's a better chance that we'll get it here as opposed to one of the other locations on the airport, CCAA admin. We'll make that revision in the addendum as well.
Yep.
And I think that'll help. Thank you. Is there anything else, Corey, before we sign off?
I think so. I think we pretty much touched base on everything.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I look forward to getting your questions. And hopefully we can answer them to the best of our ability. Yeah. But hopefully this was helpful for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.